So Martins Kings, an upcoming politician in Igbo land, dropped some serious words recently, and it's got a lot of people talking. He made it clear that Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, is a serious threat to the younger political generation in the Southeast. He stated that Kanu's freedom could potentially dethrone Confucius and the current political elites who are supposed to hand over power to the next generation. Before we dive into the main gist, please do well to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Alright, now he mentioned figures like Rocha Sokorocha Ahaj and Shwurichai's Willie Obiano. According to Kings, Rochas did whatever he wanted during his time as governor, even putting his in-laws in key positions. Obiano, he claimed, turned Agu Awka into a party zone for his entire tenure. And yet, according to him, none of them faced consequences. No EFCC investigations, no arrests. That was just the way it was. But now, Kings asks, why should it be different when it's the turn of the younger politicians? Now here's the kicker. Kings believes that if Nnamdi Kanu is released, it will completely disrupt the current political landscape. Kanu, with his influence and loyal supporters, could change everything. The established elites who've controlled the region for years would lose control of their power, and that's a big issue for the likes of Kings and his colleagues. They see him as a real threat to their political future. They are desperate to keep things in the hands of the current political class. They are afraid that Kanu's message of self-determination and independence could lead to the collapse of the current political system, which has kept the same faces in power for years. And it's not just about the political elite fearing Kanu, but also about the UI youths. They see him as someone who could give them a voice, a real shot at power. Now, let's be clear. Kings isn't just throwing accusations without backing them up. He calls out how the older politicians have been exploiting their power for years. For example, he accused Obiano of turning Agu Awka into a drinking center and nightclub. This might seem trivial to some, but to Kings and others in the younger generation, this is a glaring example of the base mismanagement of the region's resources. Kings made it clear that he and his colleagues, the so-called intellectuals, are fighting to make sure they don't lose their chance at political power. And it's not just about them. According to Kings, the younger politicians know Kanu is innocent, but they also know that his release could send a shockwave through the entire political system. The old elites are feeling the heat, and that's why they are pulling out all stops to make sure Kanu stays where he is. King sees the fight for the future of Igbo land as a battle of who controls the narrative, who controls the resources, and most importantly, who controls the power. Kings wasn't just talking about his own ambitions either. He went after Simon Ekpa, another prominent figure who had promised to end IPOB's struggles but failed miserably. King said Ekpa bragged about his ability to end the IPOB movement, but ended up in Finnish prison. According to Kings, it was embarrassing for Ekpa, and this failure is part of the reason why the older political elites are having such a hard time keeping their grip on power. It's easy to see why they're scared. If Kanu's influence continues to grow, it means that the young generation's ability to control the political future of the Southeast will be severely restricted. Kanu's message of independence might not sit well with the political elite, but it resonates deeply with the masses. The question now is, will the elites let it happen? Will they allow Kanu to continue his work, or will they try to shut him down before he can create any more change? You see, Kings and his colleagues are not just sitting back and letting things happen. They are actively fighting to keep the system as it is. King spoke openly about how the younger politicians have been able to visually exploit government contracts, like organizing youths to spread political messages. According to him, they've been getting paid huge sums of money just to create online content that promotes the government's agenda. And let's not forget the money involved. Kings emphasized how easy it is to manipulate the system. pay a few youths peanuts, create fake news, and take the larger contracts. Now let's take a moment to understand how big of a deal this is. Kings is openly acknowledging how corrupt and manipulative the system is. He's not just pointing fingers at the politicians he's against. He's also admitting that the younger generation is part of this machine. So in many ways, his statements highlight a crisis of conscience. He's saying, we know what's wrong, but we're still going to fight to protect our opportunities. That's where it gets interesting. This isn't just about political power. It's about the control of the region's future. The stakes are incredibly high, and the younger generation knows it. They don't want to be left out of the political process, and they don't want the older guard to have all the influence. They're determined to make sure they get their share of the pie, and Nnamdi Kanu's release could be the tipping point for them. Now, don't get me wrong, this situation is complex. It's not just about the fight for power. It's also about the future of Igbo land, about ensuring that the resources are shared fairly, and that the next generation isn't locked out. There's so much at play here. And while it may seem like a battle between the old and new, it's really about who gets to decide what the future holds for millions of people. Thanks for the go-ahead. Let's continue the discussion. So, what does all this mean for the future of Igbo politics? It's clear that the younger generation has a lot of ambition. They want to secure their place in the political landscape, but they are facing serious resistance from the old guard. The old political elites are not just going to let go of their power without a fight. They've been in control for too long and have too much to lose. Now, this isn't just about power for the sake of power. It's also about resources, about making sure that the region's wealth is distributed the right way. A lot of people feel that the current system has failed them, that the political elites have mismanaged the resources, diverted public funds, and consistently exploited the people for their personal gain. And while it might seem like a big mess, it's the reality many face. The younger generation, like Martin's Kings, isn't just looking to inherit this power. They want to reshape it. They want to make sure they can make decisions that actually benefit the people. However, there's a catch. Can they do that without becoming just like the politicians they criticize? That's where it gets complicated. The temptation to fall into the same patterns of corruption and patronage is strong. Kings himself acknowledged that many younger politicians have already learned how to manipulate the system, how to use government resources and contracts to build their own influence. He spoke about how easy it is to pay youths a little money and get them to create the kind of online narratives that will back the government's agenda. It's clear that this is a dangerous game to play. But here's the big question. Will they really break the system, or will they simply become part of it? This is something the people need to think about carefully. If the younger politicians are simply taking the place of the old elites, what real change are we seeing? Sure, they might bring fresh faces, but will it really be a fresh start for the region? It's all part of the power struggle happening in Igbo land right now. The older generation knows that if they let go of the reins, they risk losing control over everything they've built over the years. On the other hand, the younger generation sees this as their time, their opportunity not to change things, to take back control from the elites and use power for the people. And let's not forget the role of Nnamdi Kanu in all of this. He's become more than just the leader of IPOB. To many, he represents something much bigger, a more symbol of resistance, a voice for those who feel marginalized by the political system. His freedom certificate would mean more than just the release of a leader. It would signify a shift in power, a potential overturning of the existing political order. But with all this talk about power, we must ask ourselves, what do the people really want? Do they want a change in leadership, or do they just want the current system to be more accountable? Do they want freedom, or do they want stability? These are questions that are at the heart of the conflict we see today. If you ask me, it all comes down to this. What kind of future do the people of Igbo land want? Do they want to continue living under a system where the same few people hold the power, or are they ready for a new system, even if it means taking risks? It's easy to say that we want change, but it's a lot harder to define what that change looks like and hides how to make it happen. As we look to the future, one thing is clear. The power dynamics in Igbo land are shifting. The next few years will determine who gets to make the rules, who gets to control the wealth, and who gets to decide what happens to the people. It's a battle for the soul of the region, and every voice matters. So let me ask you again, do you think Nnamdi Kanu stepped down should be released, or is the current system better off staying in the hands of the elites? What kind of leadership do you want for the future? Is it time for the younger generation to step up, or should the old guard keep running things? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. Like this video if you agree with anything we've discussed, and subscribe for more updates and deeper dives into the issues shaping Nigeria today. Thanks for sticking around, and until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and don't forget to always keep an eye on what's happening around you. There's a lot going on, and it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want.